Hello, Soberinos, and welcome to this week's Friday Fix. Today, I want to really impress upon you that we are all in this together, that you are not alone. And in particular, I want to mention the normality of struggling. It is totally normal and natural to struggle when you stop drinking. When you first stop drinking in the early days, in the early weeks, in the early months, even when you're in your first couple of years living your life sober, it's normal to get the odd patch or the odd day when you struggle a bit. Now, there has been some wonderful support going on in the Go Get Sober Facebook group. I am just blown away by the levels of support that you are giving to one another and the wisdom and the care that you are sharing towards each other. I just feel so honoured to be a part of this amazing group of people. And one of the things I've noticed is that when somebody posts that they are having a bit of a struggle, so many other people join in to offer support and reassurance and to share that struggle. And this is absolutely fantastic. And this is exactly what we want the Go Get Sober Facebook group to be doing, is to be providing that community of support. So I first of all just want to really take my hat off to you and to give you a little bit of a round of applause for being the most amazing group, the most amazing supportive group. And the other thing that I wanted to do was to talk a little bit about my own struggle, because I am aware that quite often sober gurus, sober groups, are often full of people like me who are further down the line in terms of living their lives sober. And we quite often find ourselves focusing on how amazing life is, how liberating life is, how much better our lives are because we're living them sober. So quite often when I post things, I'm talking about how amazing life is. I'm posting about how wonderful things are. I'm posting things about, just what a difference being sober has made to my life. And it's all very positive. And there is a reason for that. The reason it's all very positive is because my drinking days are way far behind me. They are way back there somewhere in the distance. And I have to struggle to actually remember those days and to remember what I was feeling and thinking, because I am so far removed from them now. And of course, having stopped drinking and living my life sober, things are so much better. So there is a reason why we quite often posting these really positive, inspirational and motivating things, because that is genuinely how your life becomes the longer you stay sober. However, what I want to do today is to reassure you that in the early days of stopping drinking, struggle is normal. And even people like me, who you see further down the line in terms of journey into sobriety, even people like me went through that same or similar struggle. Won't be exactly the same for everybody. We will all face different struggles, but we've all been through some kind of struggle. We have all faced those challenges. We've all been triggered. We've all desired that drink and had to ignore that desire. We've all been there. So finding yourself struggling, especially at a time like Christmas, New Year, birthdays, family occasions, any of these social events where before you would have been reaching for alcohol and you'll see lots of people around you drinking alcohol, it's perfectly normal to struggle. So I want to share with you my first and second Christmas sober, because although I can rattle off to my heart's content about how wonderful my Christmases are sober in comparison to my Christmases when I used to be drinking. There was a time, my first and second Christmas sober, where it was a real struggle for me. And I think it's really important to acknowledge and remember that, so that it sends a message that it's okay to share when you're struggling. It's really important to acknowledge struggle is normal. I struggled, everybody else has struggled. So, my Christmas struggles. My first Christmas sober, and in order to make this make sense, I need to really fill you in on a bit of background. So, one of my issues when I was drinking was that I used to suffer from extreme, intense levels of anxiety, um, generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety. I used to suffer from anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and I mean severe, full on attacks that would leave me absolutely debilitated. And I would quite often experience these attacks when I was going into a social event, because social events scared me. I'm not a naturally, well, it depends what context I'm in, but in some contexts, I'm not naturally gregarious, especially when I'm surrounded by lots of people, even and probably especially when it's my own family. So for me, going into Christmas and feeling anxiety and panic about that, drink would be my go-to medicine. I would drink and it would all go away. My anxiety would go away. My panic would go away. I would relax. I would feel confident. I'd be able to deal with my mum. I'd be able to deal with all the family dynamics. I'd be able to have a good time. I'd get really loud. I'd get really silly. Drink solved all of my mental health problems. Also, it seemed at the time, of course, we now know that it was causing a lot of those problems. But at the time, it offered me instant relief, instant gratification. So it became my go to medicine. So my standard Christmas was to go to my mum and dad's house, meet the rest of my family there, get drunk, and occasionally get so wasted that the levels of guilt and shame that I would feel afterwards were excruciating. When I did my first Christmas sober, and I remember this part really vividly, I was doing about an hour and a half's drive from my house to my mum and dad's house, and I was stopping halfway to pick up my son and his girlfriend. No, sorry, just picking up my son. And I remember stopping at the halfway point. This was my first Christmas sober. I'd been sober for about 2 or 3 months at this point, and I stopped outside my son's girlfriend's house to pick my son up, and I felt hideous. I was terrified. I was in the throes of a major panic attack, and I remember feeling really sick. And I also had a vomit phobia. I had a phobia about being sick. So I was feeling sick. I was feeling anxious. I was in the throes of a major panic attack. I put on a brave face and I stood outside my son's girlfriend's house, said hello to her parents, said hello to her, put on this sort of happy front of, hey, it's Christmas Day. Hi, hun, so pleased to see you. How are you doing? Did all of that. He got in the car and I literally felt like I was fighting for my sanity. I felt when I sat in that car driving towards mum and dad's house with my son in the car, putting on a brave face for my son because I didn't want him to know anything at all about what I was going through. And I knew that one sip of wine, one G&T, one lager would sort me out. I knew I would feel better. However, I also knew that wasn't an option. It wasn't an option. Although I knew it would make me feel better, and although it would have been the answer in terms of instant relief, I'd already made that decision 2 or 3 months before that I was no longer a drinker, that drink was no longer on the menu for me. So, although I thought about it, it was never a consideration that I was actually going to do it. I knew it was off the menu. So I spent that journey to my mum and dad's house feeling absolutely terrified, putting on a brave face for my son, feeling like I was going to lose my mind, absolutely terrified when I got to the front door. How am I going to get through this sober? Hardly ate a thing over Christmas dinner. And again, it was all a front. It was all an act, pretending to be happy, pretending to be enjoying myself. And I survived it. And we didn't stay very long, stayed a couple of hours because I already had an escape route that I'd set up earlier. I had a reason for why we were leaving early. Can't remember what it was now, but I had that all set up in advance. So I only stayed a couple of hours and I managed to get through it, and I got in the car and I went home. When I woke up the next day, boy, did I feel fantastic because I'd done it. I'd managed to survive my first Christmas sober. And the feelings of self-respect, the feelings of self-confidence, the feelings of fulfillment and satisfaction that I gained from getting through that were immense. Absolutely immense. Now, my second Christmas sober was actually similar to the first. So I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that it suddenly miraculously gets easier. And what I also don't want to tell you is that this journey is the same for everyone, because some people, after 2 or 3 months sober and doing their first Christmas, will have an absolutely fantastic time. We are each on our own individual journey, and we are each going to experience things differently from one another. There will be similarities between some of us, and I can only share with you what my story was. So my first Christmas, hideous. My second Christmas, also hideous, but better than the first. And I really want to share this with you today, because having looked at some of the conversations going on in the group and seeing you guys sharing some of your struggles and celebrating each other for actually just getting through, just surviving, I felt like I wanted to share mine with you, because I want you to know that even if your first Christmas, even if your second Christmas feel like a real struggle, that you do eventually get to the point where it's easy. Because my Christmases now are, I mean, I don't think about alcohol. I'm never triggered. I'm just having a whale of a time. I'm enjoying other things about Christmas than I used to enjoy. So it does get easier. And I really wanted to share that to reassure you of that. Even if you are someone who is struggling right now, here's a bit of reassurance that for those of us who were struggling way back when, you do get over it and you do start enjoying and embracing Christmas and all the other events that you used to only be able to get through with alcohol in your hand. So the point I'm making as well is that those of us further down the line might sound like we're having an amazing time, and you might struggle to relate to us, but know that we were once struggling too. And the fact that we were once struggling too just paves the way for you in terms of reassurance that you too can get to where we are now. I hope that makes sense. And I just want to finish by, let me scroll down. So I wrote some words down here that I wanted to share with you. Yeah, I want to encourage you to do more sharing in the Go Get Sober group. If you are struggling, share, because you will not be the only one struggling. And the fact that you share your struggle reassures other people. And what it also does is it prompts other people to respond. And in responding to your struggles, you start to feel reassured because other people are sharing that they're struggling too. So you know that you're not alone. You know that you're in it together. You know that it's normal. And you gain a huge amount of reassurance and motivation from doing that. So when you're struggling, share. It's a really good thing to do. And also, there's something in the very act of sharing, in actually writing it down and putting it out there, that's somehow liberating in itself. So it is a really good thing to do, to share when you're having a struggle. Also, if you're winning at life, if you are absolutely glowing and you're having a fantastic time sober, and you want to shout about the fact that you have just had the most amazing Christmas ever because you did it sober, Share. Because what happens when we share our positive experiences of living our life sober is that we provide inspiration to other people, especially when people recognize that we were once struggling ourselves and now we're not. So that gives people hope and it gives people more reassurance, as well as helping people to build their aspirations. So we inspire people and we help people build their aspirations when we share the good stuff as well. So, in conclusion, wherever you are on your journey, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's ugly, share your story, share your struggles, share your joys. We are in it together. We are with you. I will look forward to catching up with you in the Go Get Sober Facebook group tomorrow for our Saturday share. But in the meantime, let's go get sober together. Bye for now.